I started watching Sex and the City at the beginning of quarantine because I was like, I have nothing else to lose. And wow, what a program. I don't even know how to describe it. In fact, when I was asked to describe it by a friend who asked what it was about, I said, it's about sex and the city. I know that might sound boring, but like, you have to understand that when you are watching it, it's like you're being teleported to a universe where you too can afford a really, really, really big apartment and can live in it by yourself, by freelancing once a week in a column where you just recount dates. Sounds nice. The show revolves around 4 women in New York in their 30s dating. That's it. That's really it. The 4 women in the show, in case you need a refresher, are Charlotte, the repressed one, Miranda, the one that's a lawyer and not a lesbian, Samantha, the slutty one, and Carrie, the show's protagonist slash narrator, who everyone inexplicably thinks they are because everyone thinks they are the main character. In this case, I would believe it purely because Carrie is an egomaniac. And if you are leveling the fact that you believe you are her, I'm going to let you have that one. At the time when it aired, it was considered revolutionary because women weren't really talking about this stuff on TV. It was just kind of like complaining about not having a good time. What has changed? I don't know. Before this, there weren't really a lot of TV shows like it. There were shows where women were on it and women had relationships, but it didn't really show all of it. The show touched on a lot of different topics, like when Charlotte found out she couldn't have kids, or when Charlotte's first husband was impotent, or when Charlotte found out her vagina was sad. A lot of stuff on this show was just not good. But the thing is, something can be bad and yet good at the same time. Like the entire first season when Carrie is literally narrating to the fourth wall. That was just bad though. No, that was just bad. Being in the 90s, there wasn't really a lot of conversations that were happening today. A lot of casual racism and transphobia and biphobia, to name a few. There was nothing weirder than when Miranda and Charlotte and Carrie were all acting like Samantha was not a hard 3 on the Kinsey scale. You're just lying to yourselves at that point. You're lying to yourselves several times because it's clear. Samantha starts dating a woman at one point. Spoilers, also, sorry. Yeah, there's gonna be spoilers about Sex and the City in this video. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. But yeah, anyway, so Samantha is dating this woman and like seems to like her, and the woman definitely likes Samantha, and they have sexual encounters, as you can imagine, because it's Samantha. Like, why would she be dating you if... The show is, at times, borderline maddening. That being said, excellent content. I would have to describe it as a show where my brain goes, yummy. There's not a lot to think about, not a lot to consider, unless you know, are thinking about the ways in which it is very cringy in today's society and with what we know about everything. But other than that, great. All this being said, watch at your own risk. There's definitely some stuff that you might want to skip every once in a while. And honestly, I'm not even just talking about the bigoted stuff. Like, you can skip until Charlotte gets a divorce. Yes, Charlotte gets married and has a divorce. You can skip that. Her first husband made me want to claw my eyes out. He had terrible vibes. One topic that got tossed around in and out of a couple of seasons and then I guess was never really talked about again was sexually transmitted infections, because we don't say STDs anymore. At least I think we don't. I'm pretty sure we don't. In the pilot, when Carrie meets Mr. Big, who you will hear a lot about later, she drops her purse on the ground and spills it in front of him. And there are condoms literally everywhere. So many of them. Why you would keep them in your purse? It just doesn't seem... I don't know why you would do that. Regardless, they are there, and yes, it's definitely for comedic effect, but also, like, we know they exist at least, and presumably that they are being used. The first season, as interesting as it is, does not really touch upon STIs. We don't really hear about those until season 2, when Charlotte, aka the one that is repressed and has sort of like a I have to keep everything clean or I'm going to explode vibe about her, gets crabs. And it is definitely played up for comedic effect in the show. It's not a serious infection. It's not a serious infection, so I can't really feel too guilty about that portrayal. Honestly, it is what it is. Not to mention that Charlotte only got crabs because she lied to a guy about her age, which I guess was like karma crepamillion. And that's kind of all we hear on it. I mean, everything turns out fine. Like, again, it's curable. You're not walking around like Sebastianed up until you die. The next time we hear about any STIs is season 3, when Miranda, after years and years, her whole 30-year-old life of not getting tested, she gets tested, and yeah, she has chlamydia, aka the sponsored STI of any school of drama in the country. Why a grown woman would not be doing that, especially considering the amount of sexual partners she has, it's worrisome. Regardless, she did get tested, and now she has to tell her boyfriend Steve that he also has to get tested because he probably has it, because they're dating and in an adult sexual relationship. Steve's response is terrifying. His exact words are, "I don't know what that is, but it sounds like a problem." Does it, Steve? Does chlamydia sound like a problem to you? Because it is. It is. Thankfully, Miranda convinces him to get tested too. Her doctor, of course, is like, hey, you might want to call people up, let them know. Then things get interesting. So Miranda's having to like write down all of these dudes' names, and once again, I feel obligated to point out that like Miranda is kind of the one that like doesn't have as much sex in the group, but she still has like a considerable amount, and that's fine. But why are these women labeling their friend who has, yes, more sex than them? Why is she the slutty one when all of them are doing the same things? I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. Is it because she has more fun? Yes, it definitely is. But back to Miranda. Miranda, having written down all of these names, having to recount all of her experiences, whatever, now has it in her mind that she is slutty, which again, no, 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 no. But that's what she's thinking. And she literally says that she is a dirty, diseased whore. So that really didn't do anything to destigmatize STIs, I would say. Good episode though, overall, pretty good. Definitely has more of an even hand than our last experience with STIs. That doesn't mean it was perfect though, because again, I don't remember people defending that super hard when she said that. But once again, it's been a minute since I watched, and I couldn't even rewatch because Amazon Prime had the audacity to stop making it free and charge like money for each season for a show that is 20 years old. I don't understand that. Have you, what, why? The next time we get introduced to an STI is a much, 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 much more serious episode. So just a few episodes later, Samantha wants to hook up with this guy, and he's like, sounds cool, but you gotta get an HIV test. And she's like, okay. And I'm glad that they brought it up because, I mean, the show began in 1998 and it's set in New York City. So like, we've just been through the AIDS crisis, and I know it's a TV show and it's supposed to be like fun, but can we please an ounce of realism when it comes to such a stigmatized and serious topic? Regardless, Samantha's put in a position where she's going to get tested, which is great. And so she goes, and she's really, 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 really afraid. And so Samantha's doctor is asking her all of these questions about if she uses protection. She says yes. And yes, Samantha has just confirmed that she's used protection, but not always. And that is what puts her at risk, of course. Anyway, Samantha gets her test results back. She is fine. It's all good. Good episode. Samantha's sex life on the show has often been called hyperbolic or unrealistic. And you know, if that is not patriarchy at work, because she's having fun, because she's having a good time, honestly, yeah, that is kind of unrealistic. So as just pointed out, yes, we know that the women have access to protection, but we don't always know that they're using it. In season 4, big spoiler, we find out that Miranda had a one-night stand with Steve, and they didn't use protection, which Miranda chalks up to Steve, you know, at this point having had testicular cancer and one of those going away, and herself having a lazy ovary. They didn't really think it would be that big of a deal. But it was, and she is pregnant. So Miranda, of course, considers her options. She thinks about getting an abortion. She thinks about not getting an abortion. She ends up deciding to keep the baby, and of course Steve is like instant proposal, and she's like, no, stop it. And she has the baby, but they aren't on romantic terms. At least not for a while. Which brings me to the men of Sex and the City. Where to begin? Let's start with Samantha, our single, sometimes not single, but mostly single lady. So towards the end of the show, Samantha has had this relationship with a 20-something-year-old model that she's doing PR for. By the way, she's in PR. Samantha is dating Smith, who's hot. He's a himbo, which I'm not knocking at all. At all. Samantha actually sort of cheats on Smith with Richard, this guy that she dated who cheated on her a whole bunch. Lots of cheating on this show. But they end up getting back together, and at the end of the series, they are still together. They're shown to be happy, and there's even like some cool little symbolism showing Samantha to be like growing to be more vulnerable and whatever. And then the movies happen. I haven't watched the films because I don't feel emotionally prepared for it, and again, I haven't technically been able to finish because Amazon Prime. Regardless, the movies happen. They're part of the universe now. Yay! And in the first one, Samantha just kind of breaks up with him because she realizes after 4 years that monogamy isn't for her. It doesn't even bother me that Samantha ends up single because that honestly makes perfect sense with her character. There is no reason why she really had to end up with somebody. But why would you go this middle of the road way? Why? I just want a world where Samantha Jones could have worked on herself and like worked on being more vulnerable, but at the same time either chose to just be single or she was able to have a happy relationship. I don't understand why this is not possible. And then we get Miranda, who also totally destroyed by the films. Basically, by the end of the TV series, Miranda and Steve have gotten back together, they get married, obviously they have a baby, and everything's cool. Which is fine. I actually liked Steve at first. I was like, you know what? He's kind of got a little Brooklyn accent. He has curly hair. He's kind of a loser. He's just my type. And oh, how I was tricked. Miranda is doing a lot of work at her job. As per usual, she's always working. What's new? But so much so that she and Steve aren't really being intimate, like at all. It's not happening for them. He cheats on her, just like the Brooklyn rat he is. Miranda stays with him. I felt like I was reliving the forgiveness part of Lemonade all over again. And once again, this isn't even from watching the film. This is just from my research. Now I'm angry. They completely and unnecessarily annihilated her with this one act. Yeah, they're married. Ugh, you are telling me that Miranda would have stayed with him? I'm not having it. It mostly pains me because the arc of Miranda being a single mom would have been so powerful. It would have been so good. Why did they take that away from me? Not to mention, it finally would have made room for her to discover her true path as a lesbian. Because once again, Miranda is a lesbian. Look at her dungarees. And now we're gonna talk about Carrie. It's funny because a lot of people want to be her and a lot of people want nothing to do with her. Where do I lie? Somewhere in the middle. Carrie's romantic path on this show is like, it's all over the place. She's with Big, then they break up. She and Big get back together in an affair because he's married this time. Her and Big still talk on the phone every night. She meets Aiden, who is this turquoise-clad furniture man. Then she cheats on Aiden with Big. What? They break up, and it's exhausting. The person that she's technically last dating in this show is this guy, Alexander Petrovsky. All you need to know is that he's weird, he's kind of old, and In the season finale, he slaps her and she runs away, understandably, but also because he wasn't really giving her the attention she needed. He flew her out to Paris, and then it was like, I guess that's it. So she runs and runs and runs, and, Big is in Paris. He's just there, and apparently her friends, her supposed friends, have told him to go do that. An ending that we were robbed of is Carrie running out in Paris and seeing all of her friends waiting for her because they came to help her, because they weren't going to send Big, a guy who she's had like the world's most toxic relationship with, to come get her. Regardless, they end up together. He's like, you're the one. They get together. They stay together. Cool. In the first movie, though, more tumultuous happenings. Carrie and Big are gonna get married. He wants it to be this tiny, tiny baby wedding. But Carrie ends up doing this bridal photo shoot, and then Vivienne Westwood gets involved, and it turns into like this whole bonanza. It really freaks Big out, and then on the day of the wedding, he decides, instead of just expressing to her how he feels, he just goes, I can't do this, and he runs away. If I were in her position and that happened to me, even if I had been completely in love with this person, no, you leave me at the altar at this media blitz of a wedding, I'm never talking to you again. Which is kind of what happens, to be fair. She and Big don't talk for like 7 months, or maybe 8, somewhere in there. So she and Big run back into each other randomly by chance. And then they're just like, maybe we made a mistake. And they get back together. Wow. Bet you're tired of hearing about that. Too bad, because guess what? More tumultuous happenings in movie 2. Carrie's feeling very, 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 very insecure. She thinks that her marriage, which is only a couple of years old at this point, is already like over. And instead of expressing how she feels, Carrie freaks out. Totally freaks and gets on a plane with her friends. Where do they go? Oh, not far, just Abu Dhabi. A lot happens. I'm not even gonna get into that. But with Carrie specifically, what happens is she runs into, who guessed it, Furniture Virgo Man, Turquoise Boy, Aiden. They are both married and they have this weird moment and they kiss, and it's like, oh, why? He has children. Why? Really nothing comes of this. She tells Big he's cool with it. It's all fine, which honestly, I guess considering the amount of cheating that's happened in their relationship, it's not that surprising. And that's pretty much it. Except for the best relationship in this series. I'm not really a Charlotte girl, I would say. She's very repressed. She has a lot of things she needs to therapize and work upon. That being said, she gets the best man in the series by far. It's not even a competition, but if it were, Harry Goldenblatt would win. As I said before, Charlotte is married, and then gets divorced because her first husband was terrible. He was like a damp washcloth of a man. Charlotte gets a divorce, rightfully. And guess who her divorce lawyer is? It's Harry Goldenblatt. And Harry, not really long after, makes it very obvious that he likes her. quite a lot. And Charlotte does not reciprocate in the slightest at first. She's like, no, you're bald, you're sweaty, the way you eat is gross, I can't. They do end up hooking up because, once again, he really, really liked her and made that very clear. And shortly after that, Charlotte becomes sprung, honestly. She even converts to Judaism for him before they're even engaged. Not even talking about getting married, really. And she does it. However, Charlotte completely ends up freaking out and is like, when are we getting married? Can I have a ring? I deserve to marry you. You just don't want to marry me because you know I'm better than you. Harry does not respond well to that, and he's like, oh, so this whole time you didn't think I was good enough for you? Bye. So they break up for a few weeks. Charlotte is miserable. She's going on all these blind dates, and they are the worst. She goes to synagogue. She sees Harry. She apologizes profusely. She's like, I love you. I'm sorry. I was wrong. We don't even have to get married. Instant proposal. And then they get married, have kids, and have like an amazing, beautiful life together. What more could you ask for? This man, I'm not exaggerating when I say, he worships Charlotte. Beyond the point of what is really deserved, at least initially. No other man comes close. This being said, it is unusual and strange that all of the women at the end of the TV series are all in these relationships, and it's like, okay, cool. Yes, it's a show about dating, but like, as one of the actresses pointed out, it at the same time wasn't really about dating. It was about the women and their relationships. So why did the show have to end so focused on them? Why couldn't it have been my dream ending of them all in Paris, just having a great time and supporting each other? I'm going to sue someone. This is not even close to the biggest issue on the show. Lots of things wrong. Lots of upsetting happenings that I would like to not be there. It's even been criticized for not really being that revolutionary in terms of the way it talked about sex and sexual health and etc., because some stuff just was not that accurate or was not realistic or whatever. That being said, good program. If you have any spare time and you have access to HBO Go, because Amazon Prime is going to charge you money, I say watch it. But watch at your own risk again, because some things genuinely terrible. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up or comment below. And if you want to see more, feel free to check out my previous video or subscribe.